Shouts out Big Steve.
Shout out Michael Bisbin. Righty, Big Brain MMA recap. This is the first episode of the recap. If you're just tuning in, you never seen me before, I usually do an early tease where I look at early odds in the week and bet on them without any tape, and then I do a normal show with my final bets. And usually in the early tease, I do a recap, but I'll do a recap now, see how this works, and then for the people that don't want to hear my recap, I personally don't care about anyone's recap of any of the cappers I listen to. I don't really give a shit how they went. It's not about, seeing how their bets went. I just enjoy listening to people's content. So I feel like no one cares about my recap either. But the reason I do it is I'm documenting my own results. I like to talk about fights and, staying accountable. And, I try and make this educational. It's not the most popular channel. I'm not going to get rich from my podcast. So, maybe we can learn something, go through the bets that we won, bets that we lost. What are the regrets? What are the positives? Try see if I'm going off the cuff, but see if there's some sort of structure. And then, there's a lot more time to just talk about betting in the other episode. And if you don't like hearing me talk about my recap, then you can completely skip the show. So easy peasy. All right, so let's get into it, right? So this week with the regionals, 1,700 profit, 3.5 units with basically 2 regional shows and the UFC, 1 bet, 2 regional bets, and a bunch of bets on the UFC. So we'll get into it. So I'm going to start with Aries FC, and I had 0 bets on Aries FC, but I just want to talk about this because it felt like a win, right? I had a few leans. I liked Vlad Gutu over Hugo. He got knocked out in under 4 minutes. I liked, who else did I like? I liked this Nando guy who I bet in KSW before as a massive underdog over the Akaite. And he was a big dog and he lost in under 2 minutes. Basically, they were both volatile fights. And I said, you know what? I've lost money before plenty times, being scared that I'm going to miss out on big dog money, when deep down I know it's a very volatile fight and a volatile bet, and I don't really need to bet it. I'm okay passing on winning money, especially, if you've been watching, I've lost 6 units to start the month, and I was like, no, we'll stick to locks. So this, woke up to both my leans losing. So again, no bets there, but I felt like it was a win in itself, All right, we go to Invicta. This was brutal tape, very brutal tape. I pretty much just had 1 bet. Ashley Barrett, Quinn Williams. Barrett, went up to almost $3, plus 160. Basically, this Quinn girl, minus 200. She's been submitted before. Barrett had all the finishing upside, in my opinion. I thought it was going to be a mess. I was pulling my hair out watching it. Barrett was down 2-0. Williams was just running away, just sticking her tongue out, not throwing anything. And then eventually Barrett took her down and finished it. I also like the under. They both would have cashed, but yeah, half a unit to win 370, almost a whole unit. So that was good. I felt good about that. It was very hard to lock in. I locked it in right before it started. So, glad that I wasn't a pansy. Glad that taping something as brutal as this Invicta card paid off. I also liked Olga Rubin in the main event and kind of talked myself out of it. They're both bums. And that kind of stung a little bit, but, I said to myself, the read's good, so whatever. One and done. Let's move on. So 1 bet on the regionals. We go to Octagon. Now, Octagon, again, my second favorite regional promotion behind KSW. And I've been saying for weeks now, focus on KSW, focus on Octagon. If there's multiple regionals, just focus on these. For some reason, I always leave Octagon till last minute. And then all my leans hit. And I go, why didn't I tape this a bit further? And the same thing happened again. I liked Barashori. I didn't really understand why his line wasn't crazier. He won in under 2 minutes. I did like Jacoby, so that was good. I was going to play Uzun. I did like Mandela Jr. Passed. I mean, he won in under 20 seconds. That one stung a little bit. Staines, he went up to minus 200 on BetOnline. I wish I hit that. Murdoch, this was a pick and fight. I'm pretty sure if Murdoch didn't finish Ozan, he would have lost. Aksu, this was my only bet. It went up to $1.70. I know Ognjen well. He's a Serbian bum. Dimic could have wrestled him a little bit, but Aksu had all the finishing upside. He probably would have won a a decision as well. Or even if Dimich was wrestling him, he falls apart. So I actually probably would have finished him later on. So had a unit there, $500 to win, 350. I couldn't really tip it out because as soon as I bet that, one of my boys from London, he smashed it as well, and then the line was just disgusting. But I guess there was a bit of value there. Shamrock, a lot of the boys were on Korkmaz. And it made sense. He lost the split, ton value, but I just couldn't do it. Again, same as the Aries. I said to myself, I don't have to be on these, big underdog shots that are tempting, and I don't really need to play him just for the sake of saying I was there. I was there when Korkmaz won as a big underdog. So I'm glad I passed there. Frimpong, yeah, he was the side. I passed there because he was an underdog. A lot of money came in on him. But ultimately, the thing that I'm happy with is locking in Aksu at chalk. And there's a lot of regrets. I regret Junior. I regret Bashori. Some easy money round ones there. Same as KSW. They come in quite easily. Like if you think there's going to be a finish, it happens. So yeah, but ultimately one bet and one cash. So I'm not going to complain about that. Alrighty, and then we go into Brave FC. I passed on everything. Props to Dogfather and a bunch of others. Moyes. I don't know if Moyes is in here. Moyes Audio told me about Lapilis when he was like $4 something underdog, and every day the line just kept getting smaller and smaller, and he won a 30-27. So, but not upset about that. You can't tape everything. These days I really can't tape everything. Alrighty. And we get into this card. And as I said, this was a hard card to bet. I only went in with one pre-bet, which was the under 3.5 rounds in Michael Morales with Gilbert Burns. I was up late when they released totals. That's the only total I hit. I felt like that was the only total that was off and it was going to move, and it did. The other total I was tempted on was Marion Santos, and I didn't lock it in and didn't really move. So I'm glad I just held my mark there. Other than that, really, really tempted on Pinero again. Big underdog, was tempting me all week. I said, fuck it. I can't play her. She's just slim margins. Park didn't really tape much. Good on him, ran through him. Gomez, I played $60 on her KO, $40 on her sub. I won 170, not even half a unit. That's my first regret. Every week I say for props, even though they're hard, I'm gonna do minimum half a unit, and I always do like even less than half a unit, and then I regret it. So I should have done $250 there, make like 300 something bucks. Santos Lisboa didn't play anything. Yeda Del Valle, yeah, I like the under here. I like his sub, $5 as I mentioned. It was much better than KO. I was gonna play his round one sub at $10, so I put $200 on his round 1 and 2, and I was gonna leave $50 for round one sub. That makes it exactly half a unit, and I just didn't do it. I played the 200 on round 1 and 2. And then I forgot to do the $50, which had been another $400, another whole unit. Nothing to sniff at, right? So it is what it is. I still won the $300 on his round 1 and 2. So now we're like $640 of just action bets. Jared Gordon runs through Moises. Happy for the guy. Really happy for the guy. So Gabe Green, Camilla, I played the under here. Not much. It just, as the week went on, it made sense. Gabe Green, a lightweight. Last time he was a lightweight, he got knocked out back-to-back twice. Usually he's very aggressive, very hittable. Mateus Camilo, even the people that he doesn't finish, he's dropping them multiple times. Obviously, he's been finished twice. It made too much sense. After round 1, I was like, oh no, these guys are just gonna stare at each other. And Camilo has such an easy takedown path here against Gabe Green. It's gonna go over. But yeah, Sam came out of nowhere, and that's the third time Gabe Green has. Pardon me, that's the third time Camilo's been subbed. So the kid definitely quit in there. He's got some cardio issues that maybe we can exploit in his other UFC fights. But obviously, I had a feeling he was going to have some UFC jitters as well. He's very young. These guys that have bad cardio, they're predisposed to gassing a bit sooner as well, because a lot of cardio is nerves, right? So yeah, at that point, we're actually now we're $640 up. So I pretty much hit every bet, all little action pokes. Gomez inside the distance, Del Valle inside the distance, 1 and 2, Green under, and I still have my bet on Michael Morales. I'm like, cool, this is going to be maybe like a 4-unit day with the regionals. And let me get into the comments before I get into the main card. I'm obviously powering through this. Aussie Fight Fan, my friend, thank you very much. I don't know how you went, but I appreciate it. You did say when I lost my ass on Sakuraba, I'll make it back next week, and I did, and this is the second week that I made it back, so we break even now. Dogfather, my number one fan. Thank you, sir. Lucky Tim. How are you, Lucky Tim? What up, Blom Dog? Blom Dog, you've been doing well recently, mate. I've been paying attention. Well done. Iceland Fights, you made it. Yes, you did. And you're also a sharp man. Bet Aksu at minus 170. I wonder who bet Dimage. Bet online, I'm not always the biggest fan of bet online, with the limits and the shitty props and shitty vig. But, sometimes because of that vig, you get really good lines on, big favorites like Asku. And, same thing happened with Staines against Nafuke. It went up to minus 200. I wish I played it, but it is what it is. So we're going into the main card, hit every little bet. I really liked the roast up. I thought I'd wait for live bet. That was a good decision because it looked like trash. As I mentioned, the under looked like a trap. And, you can argue it was value, but Costa doesn't hit that hard. Neither one was going to sub the other. And Arosa, it didn't look like classic Arosa. He was a little bit scared. This is the one. Rosa Boy versus Dustin Stolfus. This is the one where I lost a lot of my profit and it pissed me off. So, I've been hitting all these action bets, all my reads, and I got to Rizaboyev, and my other read was under 1.5 rounds. And a lot of, I was going back and forth. Rizaboyev, really low volume. Stolfitz, not that chinny, but extremely hittable and a little bit gassy. So I was like, yeah, low volume. If Stolfitz takes him down, it's going to kill the clock. But then he's probably going to get up at some point. And, round two, Stolfitz is still going to be a lot more hittable and gassy. So I was like, I'm just going to play the under, right? So $225 on the under. Look, Stolfitz almost finishes him. There's a little bit of value there. He's eating like uppercuts and spinning wheel kicks. Not too much regret. And then I go on Bet Online. And, I'm playing around with some live betting while Dustin Stolfitz is on top as a big underdog. And I didn't really want to live bet it, but I clicked it because Bet Online never takes my action. It's like the worst book for live betting. It takes like 10 minutes for them to accept your live bet. And they took it. Of course, they took it. They always take my losing bets. So I lost another $150 betting on Stolfitz. So from half a unit, $220, to like almost $400 on this stupid fight. I squeezed out almost $700 profit on these great bets, and then it just all fell apart on Rizaboyev and Stolfitz. But that's all right. Then we go to Marlon Santos, Sadiq Yusuf. A lot of people fell for the under trap here. Both of these guys just really, really timid. After round one, I checked the live betting odds, and I couldn't believe it. Santos was pick'em, and I thought he won round one clear. And obviously from here on out, Yusuf slows down. Santos only built. And I went to bet, on that, and he dropped to $1.66. So I ended up betting, $300 to win $200. So I got my half unit back. I was up to 400 and something, and then Michael Morales obviously had the under 3.5 at plus money, $300 to win more than 500. That got me to pretty much 1,000, 2 units, 1,000 there, 700 with the 2 regional bets. So yeah, almost 2K weekend, almost 4 units. Yeah, generally happy with the discipline, happy with being selective. Obviously, I missed out on some locks on Octagon and some UFC locks. In terms of regrets on the UFC, I really regret not putting that $50 on Del Valle round one sub. I got to trust the reads. And what else do I really regret? The live bet on Stolfitz. I mean, that $150 was annoying. And the other big regret was when I saw the Marlon Santos live line, that really should have been, 500 USD, so 750 Australian. I don't know what I was doing betting half a unit on a fighter that won round one, and it was going to win 2 and 3. So, I had like usually when I get that kind of gut feeling when I see a live bet, I go big. But if I was down, I probably would have gone big. I'm much more brave when I'm chasing. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Regrets, Stolfitz, not putting more on things, the good stuff. Yeah, happy that I locked in that the dog on Invicta, and yeah, not much more I'm too happy with, but yeah. Alrighty. So since this is a recap show, I'll do my recap for the month and the year, right? So April was going great, man. We're doing well. And then I lost a lot of cashola on the last week of April, which only got me to 2K up. And as you know, lost 3K at the start of the month. Wilkinson Davis. Boxing was, a stupid bet. I kind of tailed someone, but then I also quickly did my own due diligence. I'm like, yeah, that's a good bet. Garcia to finish Romero. Sandhagen Figgy, just a couple of bad bets. Kleber Shyland, this is where I lost my ass betting Sakuraba. So at this point, it was a little bit of a depressor. I was, as you can see here, 1,400 up for the year, which is the worst, trending to be one of my worst years ever. But, it's not the worst thing because I lost in January and I lost in February, which I've never, in 7 years of betting, I've never gone down the first 2 months. So, I was in profit after all that. And you're saying, doesn't matter. Good May, you turn it all around. But around this part, you're like 1,500 down. 5 months in, you're like, oh, this is depressing. But here we are. Jack Bilal, LFA, Invicta, Octagon, Burns. And in 2 weeks, we made 6 units and we break even. So now we're again profit for the year. Refreshed, back to square one. 2-3 units by the end of May more. And we'll go on like $4,000 for the year. And things are going well. Can't complain, really can't complain. What else do we have? Comments. Blonde Dog, classic hold the bet and move the line or reject it. Live betting. Yeah, live. Bet online is, I don't know what to say about bet online. Piezo agrees. Blonde Dog, anything for road to UFC? Well, my friend, because this started at 6 a.m. and it finished quite early for me at like 1 p.m. I have been taping it, but obviously we got no odds. So I've just been writing down my leans and writing down my predictions of where the odds are going to open up. But I have moved on to the UFC because we have odds there, and I'm just trying to get ahead, lock in some early lines. But I'll talk about that in the early teas. So that's it. This is the first recap show. You either like it or you hate it. I'm probably going to keep doing it. It just makes it easy. I don't have to talk about my recap during the early teas. It can be a much shorter show. So break even for May. We made it back. Sakuraba can suck my ass. Iceland Farts, out of all MMA podcasters, I think you are the only one that's profitable. No disrespect to anyone, just saying what I see. Out of all that's profitable? No, there's a lot of profitable ones. I will say, though, I have been profitable every year for 7 years. This year I'll be profitable as well. Last year I had to drop my units from 2,000 to 500 halfway through, and I still finished on 30,000 for the year. So, I'm not going to shit on anyone, but I will say, everyone, if you consider yourself a capper, you really, really should do your best to profit every single year. But there is a lot of profitable cappers out there. Some bad ones too that can profit. And I just put things into perspective. I don't think gambling is that, MMA gambling is that hard. Over the 12 months, you really should win more months than you lose. So, and I know a lot of people blame me for being negative and stuff. They don't get my dry sense of humor. So maybe I'll use this time to be a little bit positive. But Dogfather's doing quite well. He's a profitable bettor. He thinks he's him. So let's give him that. Evan was doing all right. I think he's on a bit of a downswing, but Evan is a guy that bets a lot, and he's a bit of a victim to variance the way he bets. Pepe is doing well. There's so many people that don't even have Twitter that are in the Discord, my Discord, Big Brain Discord, and they do so well. A lot of them don't even have shows, and those are some of the sharpest guys. So a lot of dudes. I appreciate the compliments, Icelandic Farts, but a lot of guys out there are profitable. I'll maintain that no matter how much I go down halfway through the year or how bad the variance is, I'll always be up, 20, 30,000 for the year. So that's my advantage. Blonde Dog, still can't believe Sakuraba got armbarred. No, me either. Take away his black belt. All right, that's it. Like and subscribe. Peace out. Tell me in the comments what you like, what you don't like about the show, what can be improved. And I'll see you all for the early teas. Maybe